Spiral method is the optimized way for self-development systems and the way to practice them. So if you practice any of those internal systems or art or sports, you have probably used it, although maybe it's a bit on a not so conscious way. So I think it can be good to try to understand a bit more conscious what it is, how it works, so you can optimize the idea of how to use it. I will explain it on the field of Taiji because it's quite easy to explain, and of course it's practical, so you can see how it works. The idea is as follows. Any internal system that aims for self development, self improvement, it has a refinement process. It has to go through a refinement process. That process, for example, on Tai Chi, first is based on the studying, learning, and practicing some principles, some ideas, and those ideas are not endless. There's a limited number of it, but the possibilities of human development are kind of infinite. So how does the two things match? Well, the idea is you work on one principle for a period of time, and then normally you get some result. I'll give you an example in a second. And then after some time, normally 3 to 6 months, you move into another idea, another thing you want to refine or change. And then that refines something else. And then let's say you cycle through the principles, and then sometime after you come to the same principle that you started working on in the beginning. But you do it not on the same level that you were before, but on a next level, because you have accumulated experience not just on that same idea, but on a set of ideas. And because, especially in Tai Chi, the principles, the ideas are connected, then of course one thing enhances the other. This is quite clearly seen on the Wuxing, the 5 phases. So if you practice on the Tai Chi, there is this idea of the 5 phases that I explained before, which means that when you practice the Tai Chi, you cycle through 5 phases of the mind and body states. Those five phases are metal, then water, wood, fire, and earth. When we talk about movement, they are related to a certain condition of the body mind, and specifically, let's say, the muscles. So, for example, metal, it's when you produce a contraction to move the body. The water is when you take off that contraction and the muscles release. Then it comes the wood, like the bamboo, that when you sink down into the ground, the muscles get stretched or elongated and get a whole body in an elastic condition. Then the fire, it's when the body elastically expands from the ground. It's the Fajin or the Hojinji that we've discussed on the Taiji forum courses. And then the earth is when you settle back into the ground. So those 5 phases are naturally connected, one after the other. They follow each other. There's a correlation of the mind too, but I won't go into there now. Which means, for example, you can start, let's say, this spiral on the metal. And for some time you practice how you push from the ground. So that it's a very, let's say, you can refine that it's very smooth, on the right direction, with the center moving first. Any of those ideas you can look for. But of course, you don't just do that. You do the whole cycle each time you make a movement in Taiji. So you start from metal and you focus on refining specifically that idea. And then you move on through the whole cycle and then you come back. So that, if you do that with specific idea to refine something for over, let's say, 3 months to 6 months, it will produce a substantial change. Once you have that one, then you can move to something else. If you want, just to make it in a sequence, you could start working on the water process, which is the releasing process. And then you try to refine how you let go into the ground, how the muscles release, how everything flows smoothly into the ground and connects into it, and so on. These are some ideas that I've discussed and explained in the other courses. Let's say you continue through the cycle and work on every one of them for some time. And then, of course, there's only 5 of them. So after some period, you'll come back to the metal that you started working in the beginning of the spiral. But now you have all that experience, as I was saying before. And because the things are connected, then it means that the way, if you contract a bit more refined, you will release a bit better. If you release a bit better, then you'll sink and spring into the ground in a much more refined way. And then the power that can arise from there elastically through the body will be much more subtle and elastically strong. And then how you reconnect into the ground, and then we're back to metal. So you'll have all this experience. So one thing influences the other. And once you reach here, then you begin to refine again the same idea, the metal, how you push away from the ground, but of course, with all that accumulated experience. That's the spiral and the Taiji spiral that we want to use for the internal training. And if you are aware of that, then you'll use that system much more efficiently instead of just jumping from one thing to the other. But you consistently work on something and then shift to something else, see what is the effect, and you gradually cycle through the principles that you want to work on. And this, of course, can be applied on any method of self-development that you are practicing or using, and as I said, in other skills or arts. It's just, if you understand how it works, then it's just one step to put it into that aspect that you want to work in your personal development, practice, training, or evolution.